Hey everybody, it's Eddie from Tokyo. This is your cryptocurrency update from Japan, and I'm sure that if you're watching this video, you know there is a big change underway. And that change is, well, an opportunity for you to maximize opportunity. And I want you to do it before it's too late. So this is a mini deep dive to get your head around NFTs and Web 3.0. If you get your head around it, you're going to see in this concentrated video that you'll be ahead of the curve. You're going to hear from Matoki Tani, a big finance guy who's the chief executive officer of Animoca, Japan. Animoca is made up of 380 companies building out a Web 3.0 strategy like no other. Have you wondered at all why Emi Yoshikawa, the vice president of corporate strategy for Ripple, is in Japan? She's been in Japan and going to stay in Japan for a little bit longer, and all of her postings on Twitter have been about Web 3.0 and NFTs. That's because the government announced that Web 3.0 is central to the strategy of both the government and society in order to rejuvenate the economy. It's going to be done with the experimentation, the reforms, the supporting of startups in blockchain, NFTs, and the Metaverse. They made it clear, especially in a speech given by the Prime Minister in London back in May. This national growth strategy was explained a couple of weeks ago in the clip you're about to watch. You don't want to miss the points on how the NFTs of the future are going to be enormously important to facilitate this change. As an investor, you want to identify the solutions, taking out the middlemen. As an entrepreneur, design those solutions that take out that middle layer of fat that is feeding on the originators and creators. And as a developer, get in a Web 3.0 project now. Crypto means business, and this Ripple Creator Fund is in full force. It's money for XRP Ledger projects, a fund of $250 million to bring those ideas to life. The grants are for developers. This Creator Fund is to help the non-technical creators. The XRP Ledger NFT ecosystem, look at it. It is such in an infancy stage. This is as of the 14th of December, 2022. I know that there's more than this, but these are some of the projects that are really pushing themselves out into the eye of the public. Don't be surprised that in 12 months from now, the NFT ecosystem on the XRP Ledger is 100 times this size. Now let's listen to Matoki Tani, where he'll give you the idea of the big players that are in this space and where they plan to take it.
My whole background's been finance. I used to run yen bond trading for JP Morgan for a long time. Most recently, I was a portfolio manager for Millennium, running the Japan macro strategies for them. And then came into this world about a year ago. Animoca Brands is a combination of about 380 companies that is building a Web3 ecosystem. We have two big strategies. One is to really work with the Japanese IP. So we're working with the Japanese manga, anime, the biggest financial institutions, Bank of Tokyo Mitsubishi, Sumitomo Trust, Daiichi Life. All these big institutions have come in to support this initiative to bring Japan IP to the world and also Japan to Web3. Now, I'm not so sure how many people here are aware, but the Japanese government has announced Web3 as the national growth strategy. So it is the strategy for Japan to take the whole economy to Web3, and we are literally in the heart of doing this. So I see this play as a securitization of IP. So this is basically, we're taking IP, we're securitizing it into NFTs, metaverses, marketplaces, gaming, esports. This gives us the utility which Animoca is so good at. And of course, go to what I call the asset management layer, which is your blockchain DeFi and your wallets.
Got it, thank you. So you talked about securitization of intellectual property or financialization of intellectual property. We're talking about this outside in the room. Now, in my mind, intellectual property, the Mickey Mouses, and the content, so the cartoons, the movies, etc., the physical assets, these are all monetizable anyway. So what's different? What's new? How are you what does financializing mean in this context?
So Web3, as I think most of us here in the room know, that the ownership of these digital assets will change. And I think given that the digital ownership changes, it also means that the way content is funded, the way it is made, and the way it is packaged will change as well. And from a Japanese context, Japanese IP, Japan is very rich in IP. I think we all understand that, but has been a feeding ground for GAFA. So it's been brought a little bit to the world, but obviously not to the level of Disney or DC Comics. So I think with Web3, with the way ownership is changed, with the way that it is going to be distribution will change as well. And I think this is where we see so much potential for Japan, where it is so rich in culture, so rich in IP, and it has really been a feeding ground.
What do you mean by feeding ground? Who's feeding on what? Sorry.
Well, you take, for example, if you look at the valuations of American companies, and you look at the stock market, and you look at the stock market of Japan, I think I write it on here, but the market value of intangible assets in Japan is only 15%, where the US is 85%. Now, of course, it's not all from Japanese IP, but a lot of the Japanese IP is being fed into the US market cap, whether it be YouTube, whether it be Netflix, whether it be, whatever it is. And it's being sold for a very, very cheap price, to be very fair.
Got it. So without putting words into your mouth, what I'm taking away is, in Japan, creators aren't paid enough. There's not enough money going back to creators.
For sure.
Compared to the rest of the world, say, or the US market.
This is public, information, but capacity of Japanese production houses are full for the next 3 years. However, 40% of them are in the red.
You think that Web3 kind of unlocks some sort of value there?
Web3 will allow these IPs to be owned and shared by the community themselves, which means that all the middlemen that has distributed Japanese contents and IP some of them are no longer be needed, which means that the unlocking of the Japanese IP in Web3 will mean direct access to the communities that love this IP globally.
More money is going back to the originators of the content.
Originators, creators. I think we're all about supporting the creators. We're supporting the IP in this, yes. I think there's 3 things that always bring value to anything. Utilities, first of them. What can you do? Where can you do? Where can you go? Second is rarity. Of course, we all know that, and NFTs. And third is liquidity. Now that Japanese government has announced for Web3 to be the national growth strategy, we're seeing more corporates that are interested in Web3, maybe more than individuals at the moment. There are a lot of laws that are being changed. NFT white paper was already released. There's a version 2 that is coming up.
So who's releasing this white paper?
The government.
Okay, so it's like a policy document or something?
Yes, it's a policy document, correct. We're in the heart of helping them draw this. A lot of laws will be changed. Many of it should be announced next April in the first diet session, hopefully. Of course, I don't control that, so don't quote me on it. But it's definitely even from the tax laws that are being changed. And a bank, obviously, given that they look at this, they look at NFTs as a new asset class. And we are working with them to work with a lot of corporates in Japan to go Web3. We think many things will go Web3. CRM models, whether it be
CRM, customer relationship
management, like Salesforce. Yeah, basically all the data that will come out of Web3 to your booking systems, to you name it. So I think a lot of things, the way you marketing strategies should change. So a lot of things, the way companies are going to operate in Web3 will completely change. Now, we're working with the bank. on the B2B side of things to help corporates adopt. We're also working with the B2C side, using the retail side as well to do a mass adoption into Web3.
Wow, so Japan could really take the lead here middle of next year if all these things come to pass. Globally.
I really do think that there's a chance that Japan could be a leader in the space. And I think it's really interesting. The past year I've been speaking to many, many corporate leaders. And it's because Japan lost out in Web 1 and Web 2 that a lot of the corporates are jumping on Web 3 not to miss the boat. What I'm hearing is we don't understand Web 3, but we understand that if we do make a move, if we wait until we understand it, it's too late. And that's the biggest lesson that these corporates have learned in Web 1 and Web 2.
My takeaway is watch out for changes going on in Japan in the middle of next year as it relates to NFTs, changes in tax laws and other regulations, and especially the impact will be in the B2B markets rather than profile pictures or that kind of thing. Is that the right takeaway?
I think you could say that. I think you could definitely say that. There's, I think even before that, I think there's going to be a lot of changes that's going to be announced in terms of regulations and laws. They're really pushing for this. So even the announcements of the law changes will come probably first quarter of next year, hopefully. Of course, it's political, so I wish I controlled it, but I don't. But yes, that's going to be correct. Yes.
Awesome. Let's keep an eye on Japan.